Hello, family members. I hope you're having a nice day today. I want to talk to you today about something that you may or may not have heard of. It's called Transmedicalism. And just a quick sort of rough definition for those who don't know what it is a belief generally within a subset of the trans community that says essentially in order to be trans you need to feel dysphoria and or have undergo medical transition and try to pass as a binary sex. And I became interested in what the science was behind that. I have heard people talk about transmedicalism that aren't transmedicalists. You know, they're critical of it. And so, I wanted to kind of know where this belief came from, what's the foundation of it. And so before I get into what I found, I just want to give you a little background on my understanding of biology, especially human biology. I do have a degree in biology, an undergrad degree in biology. I can read scientific articles and all that stuff because, I spent 4 years doing all that fun science stuff. Then I went to chiropractic college, Dr. Brady, DC here. Not practicing, no medical advice here. But I literally spent years learning human anatomy down to like the molecular level, I, spent years in a gross anatomy lab, like with cadavers. I know what people look like inside and out. So I have a pretty good understanding of human biology. And I went looking for that scientific basis, and I've spent the last week or so trying to find stuff. And what I found was there really isn't anything that I could find, because there's very few people who self-identify as transmedicalist. I think that transmedicalism as an idea is something that is just actions that are taken by a people, and that's how people describe their actions or their expressed beliefs. So if someone says something that indicates that they believe you must have dysphoria or must medically transition or must have a binary, gender, that action, that statement is transmedicalist. And the person who said or did that may not even think of themselves that way. I really only found like one person. I went on YouTube and looked it up. I found one person who was like, I'm transmedicalist and here's what I believe. And I watched their video, and to me, I think they were either their understanding of transmedicalism is maybe a smidge different than the general consensus of what that means, or maybe they were presenting things in a sort of like sanitized, semi-misleading way, maybe unintentionally, maybe intentionally, I don't know. I don't know why exactly their video was the way it was, but it just didn't match anything else I've ever seen or heard about transmedicalism. It partially did, and they gave some resources, and I did check them out, and I think the resources they were using to support their argument, it was a stretch. It was a real big stretch. And so I think that there isn't anything there. The reason people hold these beliefs, the transmedicalist beliefs, and make these statements and take these actions and exclude people based on their interpretation of what it means to be trans, I think that is just respectability politics. I don't think it's anything more than that. It's people who want to convince the normies that they're one of the good ones. They're not scary. They're not like those weird people who aren't really valid over there, who don't look right or question other people's assumptions and challenge people's assumptions about gender and transness and all sorts of things. I know there are people out there that wish those weird ones would just go away, because you see it over and over again. It's like the, way that people, talk about Marsha from Stonewall and Marsha P. Johnson, and she just wasn't who they say she was. They don't understand that trans people and gender nonconforming people and of all varieties have always been a part of the queer community. And if you try to marginalize people based on your interpretation of their gender, you're no better than your oppressors. You're just hoping that you can be a little bit higher up on the ladder if you seem more respectable. Early on when I was making my videos, you decide, like, are you going to be on camera or what? And how to show yourself and everything. And I made a very conscious decision not to hide my body, because I don't see people that look like me that often in media of any variety. And we exist. There's a lot of us. I mean, they wouldn't sell clothing my size if there weren't other people buying it too. So I know that, and I know other people who have bodies like mine, Now, obviously, I'm a little more sloppy than I'd like to be, but, my body dictates what I can wear and what I can't wear. And so I have to accept that. And I don't want to cover that up. This is what chronic illness disability can look like. Not being able to wear a bra or makeup or jewelry. I used to have piercings everywhere. Can't wear them anymore. It's frustrating. Sorry. I am gone way off topic. But my point is, we have to accept people, all people, as they are, no conditions. We have to learn to accept all parts of the queer community and fight for all parts of it, and not be like, well, we have to impose some sort of standard somewhere. No, we don't. The most humble, strangest, most off-putting queer person deserves human rights, just the same as everybody else. The most off-putting people that you don't like, that it makes you uncomfortable to be around, they deserve human rights. Everybody does, no matter what. That's what the point of human rights are, is that there is no condition for it. And transmedicalism is conditions. It's trying to sanitize transness. It's trying to make an acceptable transness. It's trying to make a transness that's more understandable for cis people. It is taking the trans experience and putting it from a cis default perspective in order to make it more palatable to cis people. And I kind of get that impulse, to be honest. Like, I can understand wanting to do what you think you need to do to protect yourself, to be safe, to be able to thrive in a society that really does not want you around. I can't imagine doing that at the expense of somebody else. But when I think about it, I guess I do, because being middle-class white American, my lifestyle is certainly subsidized by the exploitation of others. Fast fashion, anyone? And so many other things. I guess my point is, I'm not trying to judge people who have those transmedicalist beliefs, but I am trying to challenge them to keep those beliefs to themselves. They can believe and feel what they want transness to be to them, but it is not their place to tell other people what transness is or is not. People who say they're trans generally are gonna just be trans. There's very few, like 0.0000001% of people who are cisgender who would say that they're trans. And just because someone said they were transgender and says they're not transgender doesn't mean that they actually aren't transgender. I want to say that too, because I've known people who have detransitioned for reasons other than a sincere desire to detransition. But at any rate, we just need to believe people. When someone says, this is who I am, we believe them. There's no reason not to. Unless you have some hard evidence, something really firm there that makes you say, this person's a liar, like they're an obvious con man or grifter or whatever, I don't see any reason not to believe people when they tell you who they are. I tend to believe people know who they are better than anyone else. I mean, I am waspy and I do know a bit about people who can live in some level of denial, but I don't think that generally people are going to lie or mischaracterize their identity, because you want to be seen for who you are. And if you're lying about who you are, that's not a comfortable feeling. And it's exhausting. But I think we just have to get away from this heteronormative, idea. It is something that's fully ingrained in our society, unfortunately. That this idea of the default cis straight person until proven otherwise. And I don't know why we do that, because a lot of times that's not going to be the case. Why do we have to just assume that there's a default and we need to be told otherwise? Like, people tend to tell you who they are. You know, if you have any young queer people in your life, I imagine you may have noticed some signs that they had that interest in the same sex or, in gender fluidity or anything like that before they told you. I mean, if they trust you, you probably saw that. If you're the kind of person who is not affirming, the kind of person who is bigoted against trans people, not a fan of trans people or queer people, you may not realize your child is queer until they I'm queer, like they have to spell it out for you. So just because you didn't notice until they told you does not mean they weren't before you at that time. They just were hiding it from you because they were scared. That's all rapid onset gender dysphoria is it's it's a admission of guilt on the part of a parent that they were so frightening to their child that their child could not be honest with them and until they hit some tipping point. It's funny to me. And I think that's the thing, you just don't see people who are transmedicalist be like, hey, I'm transmedicalist, because of that same thing. They don't understand that their belief system is bad, but they do understand it's not popular. And so they kind of try to sanitize it or scientize it, make it seem like there's some sort of logical or scientific reasoning behind what they believe. People can convince themselves of damn near everything. I'm sure you've had those friends that bad things always happen to them, but it's never their fault. They're really good at coming up for an excuse of why they don't have any responsibility for when this bad thing happened or that bad thing happened. And maybe sometimes they're right, but that can't be true all the time. Not that often. You know what I mean? After a while, you have to go, maybe I'm the problem, I've always tried to be very cognizant of my responsibility for whatever situation I find myself in, because how else am I going to learn to do better if I can't see that? And I think that when it comes to transmedicalists, I think that they need to examine their beliefs, and they can't. And that's why I don't see a careful examination of transmedicalism anywhere, really. Because it's not something that you can make sound sensible. Writing up something that explains transmedicalism in much detail is a confession of bigotry. And that's all it is. And so that's why you don't see it. And I think that it's an important thing for cis people to know about, to know that trans people are not a monolith, and there are people in the community that are bigoted against other trans people for basically arbitrary reasons, for respectability politics reasons. If people don't know that there are trans people that hold beliefs that are antithetical to broad consensus within the trans population, then they are more likely to fall for the grifters out there who don't represent the trans community, who actually represent things that harm the trans community, but do it with their transness as a smokescreen. that, oh, well, not all trans people believe this, or trans people believe this, or whatever it is. You know, if they're the only person a cis person listens to, and they don't understand that that person can't be a representative. One single individual cannot be a representative of the entire trans community, period, full stop. If they don't know that, then that's dangerous. And people who want to harm the trans community can use that against them. And so that's what this video is for. Hopefully, a few more cis people will know what transmedicalism now. All right. Well, my camera says it's time for me to shut up, so I'll do that. I did want to say Daddy's out of the hospital. Everything's good. Talk to you later. Bye.